Hey there, this is Dave from e-portfix, and today I want to talk about the quick release. Quick releases are used to secure the wheels and the frames on a large percentage of bicycles nowadays. While it's a fairly simple device, I do see them regularly misinstalled, and doing so can cause problems from brake rub to ruining your frame or even having your wheels fall off while you're riding. So a couple things I'd like to say about it. Let's go. Early bicycles had the wheels held on with wing nuts, big wing nuts here. And legend has it that Campagnolo, as a racer in the 20s, was racing and came to one point where he had to take off the wheel on his bike. Early bikes had two gears. They had a smaller gear on one side, a larger gear on the other side of the rear wheel. And in order to change gears, you'd need to actually remove the wheel, flip it around, and reinstall it with the other gear on the chain. So this was supposed to be a cold and snowy race, and his hands were frozen, and he really had trouble getting his wheel off, and it caused him to lose the race. And so that event gave the inspiration to invent the quick release, so it'd be easier and faster to take the wheels off his bike. Whether or not this is true, there's some debate. I went looking for information for evidence of it, and I couldn't really find any exact evidence of the race or the invention and the patent even. And if you look at some photos of racing bikes, even from the 40s, you'll see they still have quick releases. They still have wing nuts. But in any case, the invention was done. Campagnolo used it a lot as part of a derailleur system where you actually release the wheel, and then the wheel just slid a little bit, and you change the gears with a lever. But it was an invention from them, and we use it a lot nowadays. It's a simple device. There's just a couple elements to it. So you've got the cam section here, you got the skewer, you got a nut on the other end that comes off and allows you to adjust it, and then you've got two cone springs. So these two springs here, they're installed with the tapered side in towards the center. And what those springs are for, all they do is they simply keep the quick release centered on the hub so that it's held in place with an even gap on both sides, so it's easy to install the wheel onto the bike. So just loosen that, comes off, and then those springs just center it, so it's easier to reinsert the quick release and the wheel onto the bike. So how do you adjust it? Well, basically just as I did, you insert the wheel onto the frame, and then you move the lever to tighten it. When you install the quick release onto your hub, you want to make sure that it slides in and out easily, that it's not bent, it doesn't bind anywhere. Make sure you get one cone spring installed on each side of the quick release skewer. And you thread this together a little bit. You install your wheel, you open the lever, install the wheel on the bike. Now I have seen people use, and often times you see people use this incorrectly by using the lever just as a wrench to unthread or thread in the quick release. And doing that might not leave you with enough clearance here, it may not tighten fully, and it's basically just the wrong way of using it. So what you're supposed to do is you install the wheel on the bike with your quick release there. You tighten this nut on the opposite side, and you move the lever. Now you know it's tight enough when the lever starts to have resistance halfway in. So when this comes down, you start to feel resistance there. Then when you push it the whole way through, that's tight on the bike. It's hard. You get resistance pulling it off, it gets loose right about there, open it fully, and then the wheel will drop out of the bike. So that's the correct way to use it. You'll see some people describing how much torque you need, how much force you need to close it, by saying when you push the lever closed, it should leave a little indent on your hand. But basically, most of them are designed so that they're free play until you're about halfway, and then you need force to close it the rest of the way. Right like that. Where do you position the lever? Now when the wheel's installed on the bike, on a road bike especially, I like to have the lever pointed forwards like this, tucked in, just under the frame, close to the frame, or if you have room up inside here, or depending on the type of lever, if you can have it up, sitting up here along the seat stays. It's nice, clean, leaves it kind of aerodynamic, tucked in there. On a mountain bike, there's some concern that if the lever is facing forward, you might get it caught on something, some branches or something, and then it's going to flip open and make your wheel loose and fall off. So on a mountain bike, generally you install them and you face the lever towards the back. Just keeps it from getting snagged and a little extra safety factor. On the front wheel, usually I want to have the lever pointed straight to the back. It's a little bit more aerodynamic without the lever sticking out into the air, rather than having it sticking straight up and visible like that. Sometimes if you're concerned about someone's wheel coming in behind and flipping hitting your lever and having that open, you can always put it up against the frame, have it a little protected like that. Quick release levers are usually installed on the left side. Your derailleur and everything's on the right side of the bike. The lever, especially at the back, would interfere with the derailleur, so you always install these on the left side. Disc brakes now, the caliper is found on this side, so on the front wheel sometimes you put the lever on the right side, but it's nice to have them always on the left, front and rear. Now front wheels, usually nowadays, once the quick release is open, your wheel's going to be a little bit loose, but you're not going to be able to take it out. Why is that? Because lawyers. Basically, people didn't install or didn't tighten quick releases and would have the wheel come out, and they would crash and they would sue, and there would be liability for bike companies. So modifications were done to the forks. If you can see that, these little tabs on the dropouts. What those tabs do is they keep the quick release from fully releasing, even when the lever, when it's properly adjusted. Let's adjust it like that, so that it's tight. You loosen the quick release lever, your wheel doesn't come out because it's still held on behind those tabs. So what you need to do is you need to loosen it a bit before it's going to come out. So most bikes nowadays, you'll see those tabs on there, and then even after you loosen your front wheel, you're going to need to unthread the quick release a bit before you get your wheel out. So that's just an extra step we've got to do for safety's sake. So when you put your front wheel in, install it on the bike, and then it'll give you good practice adjusting that quick release on your front wheel. So you tighten up the nut until you get resistance about halfway, and then close it the rest of the way, and that's how tight you need to make it. There's a couple different kinds of quick releases. The original ones were more like this, where you had the lever and it moved, and you had one piece here with the cam internal to there, and it's fairly simple, easy to use, pretty foolproof. A lot of modern ones are made out of aluminum instead of steel. Saves some weight, which is nice, but there's an extra component here. You'll see there's this little spacer washer here, and then the cam is on this part here. So as you move it up and down, this cam interfaces with that. So there is one way that you can install this incorrectly, is if that you'll see that plastic part is not lined up correctly. If that's 90 degrees to the cam, then you can squish this plastic part, and then while you're riding, if this plastic part turns, your wheel is going to come loose. So when you're using this type of quick release, you always want to make sure that the saddle, the curved part there, interfaces correctly with the cam, and it opens and closes safely like that. For maintenance, especially on winter bikes, I like to put a bit of grease along the shaft here. Make sure your your threads here have a little bit of grease on them or anti-seize. Keep that from getting bound. You want to put a little bit of lube on the cam section here. I want to make sure that this is not too dry and full of grit. Make sure that's nice and clean, because that's gonna rub and cause a lot of friction if you have this type of cam, this type of quick release. So basically clean, a little bit of grease. That's going to operate smoothly, going to be nice and safe, and you get lots of years of riding out of your quick releases. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments about quick releases or any other bike related stuff, put it in the comments below. Thanks a lot.